Assalamualaikum and hello everyone, welcome back. This is the third video. We'll be doing the preparation of consolidated statement of changes in equity for AIDIL Group, and this is using the question FAR320 question December 2016, which I'm using it as a comprehensive example for FAR320 as the coverage is the same. Okay, so let's look at our third task, which is to prepare the consolidated statement of changes in equity. So earlier on, you have already calculated your profit for the year and your non-controlling interest, right? Your profit for the year and your non-controlling interest, which is from this calculation here. So take this figure, which is your equity holder of the parent figure and the non-controlling interest figure, and put it in your statement. So make sure that you have prepared the statement. So put the figure for the parent equity shareholder here and put the non-controlling interest share of the profit for the year in the non-controlling interest section. So that was directly from the calculation here that you have done. Next, go and find out what is the balance brought forward available in the group retained profit. So when I say group retained profit, it would be the retained profit of Aidil and retained profit of Fitri. First, go on looking at the one of Fitri. This is directly from the question, which is here. So if you take this figure, 1054, and you include it as part of the working, and check if there is any adjustment in the prior period that will affect Aidil. For example, if there are any impairment loss of goodwill that took place, let's say in somewhere in 2014, because our acquisition date is 1st of January 2014. Let's say there was an impairment that has been already debited to the retained profit of the parent in 2014, you need to include the adjustment here, but here none, you don't have to. Next one is the retained profit brought forward for the subsidiary Fitri. The same place, you are going to take it from here, from the statement of changes in equity. This is the one as at 1st of January. So take that figure, and that figure also has to be adjusted, as you will only have the share in the post-acquisition profit of your subsidiary. Having said that, if you can see here on the first paragraph here, you are informed that on 1st of January 2014, the retained profit of Fitri was 300,000, and this is actually telling you that this 300,000 is the pre-acquisition profit. So you need to take out that pre-acquisition profit from the retained profit brought forward. If this is a pre-acquisition loss, you will add up a pre-acquisition profit. You will have to take it out to find out the post-acquisition profit. And you also need to find if there is any prior year adjustment in the subsidiary. Let's say there were any adjustment that affect the profit or loss of the subsidiary. You can refer to the template that I have shared with you, and you can see that some of the examples are maybe things like unrealized profit that were incurred in the prior period, or maybe any adjustment for depreciation that has been done by the subsidiaries in its retained profit in the prior period, and our prior period here is 2014, but here there is none. So the post-acquisition profit, the adjusted figure is still the same, 540,000. Take 70%, which is our share, and that will give us the right to get the profit sharing of 378,000, and the total will made up 1.432 million, and this will be put here. So you are done with the one for the group. Now you are going to find out what are the share of the non-controlling interest in the net asset of the subsidiary, and also what are the non-controlling interest balance as at the beginning of the year, which will also include the preference shares that is acquired by the subsidiary if there is any, and that preference shares, if you have, you should make sure that what you include here in the calculation would be the preference shares which are listed as part of equity. So if you can see here in the question, you are informed that the company acquired 30% of the 10% preference shares on 1st of January together with the acquisition of the ordinary shares. But if you go down to the page 5, you would notice that in information number 6, the preference shares, however, are a mandatory preference shares. This will imply that this is a redeemable preference shares. And I put a note here, if it's a redeemable preference shares, that is a non-current liabilities, which is similar to the non-current liabilities like debenture. So therefore, there is no non-controlling interest. Remember, we are trying to find out what is the non-controlling interest brought forward. However, if this is not a redeemable preference shares, then you will have a share of the non-controlling interest. So for this one, for this 1 million here, this is not applicable because you are informed that 10% preference shares where it is mandatory in the redeemable it is a redeemable types of preference shares. Next, let us look at what you have here. So you will just put the fair value of the net asset in the subsidiary as at 1st of January 2015, which will comprise of ordinary shares, which is the figure here, and you are going to also include if there is any revaluation reserve balance brought forward. So in our case, yes, we do have, which is in the first paragraph here, the first part of it. You are informed this sentence number 3 here. On acquisition date, the land of Fitri has been revalued. So somewhere for 1st of January 2014, there was a fair value adjustment of land to 1.3 million and the carrying amount of the land was 1 million. And this is actually a pre-acquisition revaluation surplus, and this has not yet been incorporated in the account. And what you need to do is you need to go and incorporate that in your share of the net asset as a parent. So revaluation reserve surplus here is 300,000 because the carrying amount is less than the fair value. So you need to include that in the calculation of the fair value of net asset, or if you were to calculate goodwill, that is what you include as well, right? The pre-acquisition surplus. So include that 300,000 here. And then find out what is the retained profit brought forward at the beginning of the year. Yeah, it was 840,000, this one. And include that there is no prior year adjustment, which is similar to this, no prior year adjustment. Only that this is the one of the group, this one is the one of the non-controlling interest. And we are looking now at the profit section. So 840. If you total up this figure here, you would get 3640, and the non-controlling interest share in the net asset of the subsidiary is 30% based on the non-controlling interest share of the ordinary shares, right? So 1092, you will put it here. Next is to see if there is any revaluation surplus. In your case, none, because the revaluation surplus that you have is not the one of the subsidiary, right? This is the one of the parent. So revaluation surplus here that you have, if you can see here, the one of the parent, you have the revaluation surplus 200,000, right? This is the one of AIDIL. So that will not be included in the non-controlling interest column. If you have something or some amount for Fitri, then you will include that as well here. And you are going to show how much is the portion of the non-controlling interest in that surplus, should you have any. We will proceed. What you will include here is, I'm going to go and do the item line by line. For the interim preference dividend, you just take the figure that is given here, 80,000. Take that, because that was the one of the parent only. So take the one of the parent, put it here. And for the subsidiary company, if you look, you are informed that the dividends are related to the mandatory shares, so that it will not be included here because that dividend is a finance cost. So earlier on, you have already adjusted for the intra-group redeemable preference dividend. So the dividend has been included, has been already declared, or has been provided for the interim dividend, but that will not appear in the statement of changes in equity because this is redeemable preference shares since it is mandatory. So therefore, 150,000 here will not be reported, even according to the non-controlling interest portion. There is none. Next is the final preference dividend, that is in information number 2. Information number 2, if you can see here, at the end of the year, AIDIL, which is the parent company, AIDIL proposed final preference dividend amounted to 80,000. Preference shares of AIDIL have no fixed rate dividend and they are non-redeemable. Okay, they are non-redeemable, meaning that this is not a preference shares which are redeemable preference shares. They are non-redeemable preference shares, which is not the same as in the case of FAR3, because FAR3, the word here shows that this is a redeemable preference shares, mandatory. So the different rate as well will tell you that they are different, 8% versus 10%. So the one that AIDIL is declaring is 8%. So that 8% is already calculated for you, 80,000. And this one will have to be included in the statement of changes in equity of AIDIL here. Do not include the one of the subsidiary here. The one that you include in the group retained profit column is the one of parent only. Subsidiary will do that in their own individual retained profit. Right. Next, there are none here as well because as I said, there are no share of preference dividend to be included in the NCI if that was a redeemable preference type. Next is the interim ordinary dividend. Just take it from the question here. 144. Check if you have any final ordinary dividends. Check for that, final ordinary dividends, but there is none. You will need to show the portion of the non-controlling interest in the dividend declared by FAR3, which is the one here. You can see here is 60,000. This is the dividend declared by FAR3, and the one shared by the parent is 70%, which implies that the remaining 30% is shared by the non-controlling shareholder. So 60,000, you need to go and multiply with 30%. And that will give you the portion of the dividend that you will have to report in your consolidated financial statement, which is the one that relates to the non-controlling shareholder. You will not report the portion declared which relates to the parent company because those are intercompany transaction and that has to be eliminated. Next is the transfer to general reserve. So you will see that there are no additional information on that. None. Yes, there is additional information. Sorry about that. This one, 40,000. So what you need to do is you need to take the transfer of general reserve and the share of the parent in that transfer. So therefore, parent does not have any transfer to the reserve itself. If the parent has a transfer, you will have to include the amount of the parent, let's say 100,000. That 100,000, in case you have that, you need to go and add with your portion of share of the transfer by the subsidiary. Transfer by the subsidiary was 40,000. Our share is 70% since the percentage acquired in ordinary shares was 70%. So that will make up here to be 28,000. It will get higher if the subsidiary and parent both made a transfer. And the portion in the non-controlling interest will not appear here, because that will appear in the subsidiary's individual financial statement or the statement of changes in equity, right? And the transfer, that is the last item here. And the total for your group retained profit would be 2813, and the total for the non-controlling interest would be 1347. And these are the two workings that you need to do. You do not need to do the workings for the balance carried forward, right? But that is also the thing that you will be doing maybe in your later studies. I thank you for watching. I'll see you when I will see you. Remember, this is the video that is related to question FAR 560 December 2016. Yeah, thank you so much. I'll see you when I will see you. Assalamualaikum.